It's an ongoing thing that I have that just, lets things marinate. And so yesterday, as I came in, I talked a bit about a number of things, one of which was this idea around idolatry, which is in A Course in Miracles, and it talks about this thing that we make out of our gods, basically. And so I speculated and said that there are so many things that we put up and hold it in high authority over us. In the yamas and niyamas, one of the examples that they used is that by saying that we wear our gods on our wrist. And it is this thing of, how we pay a lot of attention to this thing called time. And time, as you know, you've heard all kinds of sayings about time, whether it is a thief or whether or not it is ruling, whether it actually heals all things, whether we have enough of it. We hear all kinds of euphemistic terms, different things when it relates to time. We get up by it, our watches, our perception of time. We motto our day by it. We scrunch things in. We talk about what we don't have time for. We show what we value by what we give our time and attention to. There are so many things that are that we do that kind of give testament to this idea of time. I think I did this wrong again. Or that go before us in this sense of what leads the way, all of these things, whether it is somebody will say, if I can make them laugh, or if I can make you smile, or if I can dazzle you with my intelligence, or my money, or, my prestige, whatever. Even this idea around whiteness. Yeah. And there is this constant struggle to find the question, who are you and where is your worth, where is your value? This is not just a thing that happens in my community. It's not just a thing that happens in small pockets. It may happen some of every place. However, there are places, I love how Dr. Brown talks about these blue zones, these places where people live much longer, who have a higher rate of happiness than we do. Even me living here in Cleveland, Ohio, this is not one of the happiest spaces to be in. When you talk about the index, indicators of fulfillment and happiness, we are not living, let me speak for myself because I don't know where you are. I am not living in one of those zones currently. And so when I recognize that this question of who I am, who you are, is not one that everybody asks. Sometimes we are so caught up in I am what I do. We are caught up in the busyness of being. And that is not to say that we ever give voice to or recognition to that. Sometimes people say that when you are feeling depressed or unhappy, really needs to be done is that you go about and figure out someplace else where you can invest your time and attention and get your mind off of yourself or your perceived issues. And I will tell you that there is something wonderful when we look at this world, that it is not just about me, myself, and my own happiness quotient, but the happiness of all those that are around me that I come in contact with. And so when we lose ourselves to something bigger than ourselves, then it seems as though we improve our level of happiness, of joy. We improve it exponentially because we're no longer focused in on what's not present or comparing ourselves one to another. It is that we are busy engaging in this thing called life. And I tell you, that in and of itself is a amazing thing to do. So it is all in what you choose, because you get to choose every moment. You're at choice. You get to choose to do and be the same old, or you get to switch up and figure out something else that you can do, be, say, have, all of those things. You get to choose again. And there is nothing cut in stone. Sometimes I wonder, this is my own wondering, I often wonder what happens when we just reconcile ourselves to the normal okie doke. I have heard of people who have received some type of diagnosis and decided that the way that they want to live their life is in this process of doing and being, rather than reconciling themselves to the end is near. We make this the fight about the Goliath that is standing before us. I mean, I don't know if you could understand that. We get a diagnosis. Somebody gets a diagnosis, and we shift all our attention over to that which we are battling. Could you imagine? And this is something that I don't want to call it a bad habit, but it's just something that I do. It is whenever somebody tells me something, I look for I think, or my mind immediately goes to the mental cause of the physical demonstration. It just automatically. And I need to stop criticizing myself about that because it's just where I go. So if somebody says to me, they've got an abscess, immediately my mind goes to, what is it that you are, holding on to? What is it that is baking inside of you? What is it? So you guys may remember the story that I've told several times. I talked to Dr. Brown about it. I've talked on here about it. I had this abscess that had occurred, and it was at the time a reoccurring abscess. I got it several times, and I was really looking for a healing, not just put me on antibiotics and aspirate it. I wanted it to be gone and not come back. I wanted a comprehensive healing of it. And so I kept wrestling with it. Like, what is this? I pulled out that Louise Hay book, You Can Heal Your Life. It's right over my shoulder. It's got the little rainbow on it right there. You Can Heal Your Life, and it talked about this idea of breast issues. And it said that I was not giving of my milk. And, I wrestled with that for a minute. I mean, I didn't have any milk. I was like, what milk? Right? What? I was like thinking, what? But then everything, even biblically, everything is symbolic for something else. What does my milk represent? What does milk represent? It is the way that we feed people. It is the way that we feed our offspring. It's a gift of nourishment that comes through our body. It comes through the planet, the earth, every single day. All the stuff that you put on your table, all the stuff that you put in your mouth comes from this wonderful gifting of the earth. Could you imagine if the earth says, one day it's like, oh, I'm not going to feed y'all no more. I'm just going to shut down production. That means that the crops will dry up. That means, the animals won't have a place to feed, or that means that the waters might turn toxic. It might mean any number of things, but it just shuts down. Could you imagine? And if it doesn't express, then what happens when something is not giving of itself? It's not as if the flow stops. It is us blocking the flow. And so then that then becomes an implosion rather than an explosion. It becomes that internal thing as opposed to that external. And so I was dealing with this frustration around that abscess, trying to figure out, well, what milk? If I'm going by what it says in the book, what milk? So now, now I'm going to apply symbology for it. What if I am experiencing this? Can it be symbolic of? What do I have that can be symbolic of milk? Now, so my way of dealing with or approaching this can be something that any one of us can experience or ask ourselves a question about. If you are feeling blockage, or if you are feeling some kind of even pain in your joints, right? If you start thinking about pain in your joints, what does that come to bring a message about? If you are experiencing the inability to see or to see clearly, or if you are experiencing something having to do with your blood or the pressure or diabetes or any number of things, to look at it from a symbolic standpoint of view. What could this be indicating in my life? Not just, oh, I need to go to the doctor and let the doctor tell me. It's doing the investigative work for yourself. What could this be here to tell me? Oh my gosh, everything in life gets that kind of scrutiny for me. If, when stuff falls apart, it's not just me sitting there and thinking like, oh, whoops, there it is. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, is there a message here? Is there something I'm not seeing? Is there something that I needed to address? So that abscess coming back, I knew it was not about the doctor and their treatment of me. So when I read in the book and it said I was not giving of my milk, I started thinking, wrestling with the idea, what's my milk? And so what I discovered was it was at a period of time when I wasn't talking. I wasn't expressing. I wasn't using my voice. I wasn't allowing the flow to come through me. And I thought that I was going to be fine because, I had done radio, I had done, the TV thing, I had done all of those things, and I thought, okay, how could this impact me? How could this, we just think like, okay, I stopped doing that. Y'all, do you not know that each of us has a purpose for our lives? And it doesn't matter whether or not somebody agrees with that purpose, it is yours. And when you decide, oh, I can, I don't have to do this anymore. I used to, and there have been some things that I have successfully cut out of my life. I used to volunteer. Oh my God, I used to volunteer. And I volunteered so much, it was almost like I was given, 20, 30 hours a week to it. And, and there was a part of me that was getting some boom in my identity, oh, I'm a volunteer, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing that. There was this elevation in my esteem from it, but not really feeling a gifting on the inside because of it. And so when I finally decided to cut it off, I had done it for a number of years. Let's say 8-10 years I had been volunteering up there. And it got to the point where it was making me feel worse than the so-called, ding to my ego that I got. It was really corrosive. And what I recognized is I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to go into a place where it just seemed like I was feeling more frustration than I was getting satisfaction out of. So I stopped. I will tell you though that while I felt like I successfully cut that particular thing out of my life, I don't think that everybody else there fared so well about my decision. There have been places, and this is not to sound braggadocious or in any way make it seem as though, anything, is not to make it anything, but I have been places, or whether it was that volunteering thing, whether it was the organization I was in different spaces, I have been told, you're the reason why I come. You're the reason why I do this. So then when I stopped going to up there and volunteering, what I saw is that people who were there because I was there then also lost their purpose for being there. And so there was some fallout around that, which was unintended. It was an unintended thing. But when you think about the reasons why you show up, make sure that they are reasons for your own joy and not just to stroke your ego, not just to make you, think that I'm, so important. Because then things, as you stay in those situations or in those areas, there are things that then attach to that. And it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. The removal of that one straw or that one card can cause things to tumble around you. So be it, right? So be it. But to be aware of that. So when I stopped and I wasn't talking, I wasn't doing the things that I normally do, that was in essence me not giving of my milk. So my cure was not just a medical cure. It was it was something that I had to begin to do. I needed to begin to give of my milk. So when you see me on here every day, it's not because of you per se. I mean, I'm wonderful, right? But it's because there is a responsibility that I have to myself to constantly give from that wellspring. Otherwise, I'm stunting the growth. The other thing that I recognize is while it may not appear that because I've, built this particular thing, that the removal of that might cause some, it might be some fallout, just like when I was volunteering at the center. When you remove something that people have grown accustomed to or feel as if they need, if they are getting nourished by that milk, the removal of it does have an impact. So the question becomes, what is it that you are giving forth to the world? What is it that feeds others that you have? So, and when I'm talking about this, I know I started off talking about idolatry, but the idolatry is about the things we think, right? Whether, even if it is, let's just call it a noun, right? Let's call it a noun, a person, place, or a thing. And a thing could be, even though it's not a tangible object, it could be your achievements. It could be your educational stuff. It could be any number of things that don't appear as a whole, but nonetheless carry with it the same kind of energetic stuff. So let's talk about this instead in terms of a verb. A verb is to do. What is it that is your purpose? What is it that you're bringing forth? What is it that you are doing? And how then can you see that as part of what you bring into the world? So, and it's funny because when I think about this idea of a noun, the noun way of living versus the verb way of living, it's one is progressive and developing and giving and doing, while the other one can be static. And so what do we do in order to move that which is static over into that which is active? And these are just questions. I mean, it doesn't have to, be, you don't have to tell me one way or another, but it's a question that you can ask yourself. What is it that I'm being or doing? Dr. Brown says often that people think of themselves as just a human being without really recognizing that you are a divine being having a human experience. He doesn't say it that way. I'm saying it that way, I guess. You are a divine being. And so that divinity moving through you means that there is something that you are doing. It means that there is something that you are contributing to the world. The divinity flowing in the world has with it a purpose. It's a verb. It's movement. It's action. It's not just something that you can hang on the wall or sit on a shelf or purchase even. It is more than that. So, just something to consider. It's just something to consider. I'm going to read for you the Science of Mind magazine, because I can. I like to say it, because I can. And then see where I go, if I go anywhere from here. Today, these are written by Reverend Christy Hardwick this month. And it's in the Science of Mind magazine. It comes with 2 quotes as well as an affirmation. And so she entitled this one, Celebrate You. Celebrate You. I've liked Reverend Christie's stuff this month. As a matter of fact, there's some songs that I have to go back and look up. Because she did say at the beginning of this is that she was going to use song lyrics as a lot of her quotes. So this particular quote comes from Keila Settle and the Greatest Showman Ensemble, and it's entitled This Is Me. And the quote is, I'm marching to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. That's good. I would like to hear that. This is me. I want to say that. This is me. As I think it was Linda that said, she that girl. Yeah, so this is me. From Ernest Holmes, How to Use the Science of Mind, she uses this quote, originality means exactly what the word signifies. Something unique, different, unlike anything else that ever was or ever shall be. Unique. So here is what Reverend Christie wrote. All the self-help books on the planet, including mine. Oh, she's got a plug in there for herself. All the self-help books on the planet, including mine, tell us that our own self-regard matters. We hear it over and over because it is a powerful principle. The message repeat, love your neighbor as yourself. What we give, we are. What we give, we receive. But if you give only to others and don't include ourselves, we become like a car that doesn't get driven. Just as unused leather remains stiff, so do unused muscles, our capacity to receive. On the other hand, when we give of ourselves sweet kindness and words of affirmation, we create the fluidity to give and receive. You and I are one of a kind. If you let that sink in, let the miracle of our existence sink in, we can invite celebration. Every day that we wake up and have an opportunity to experience our unique selves, we should celebrate and not take it for granted. I generally make a fuss about my birthday. So do I. It's not about gifts, but about acknowledging that I am here. Are you willing to celebrate the one and only you on your birthday or any other day that you choose? What if you create an event that said to those in our lives, here I am. I want you to know me. Here is my favorite reading, art, music, and activity. Why wait for folks to try to create this in honor of your life once you are gone? What if you celebrate you now? The affirmation that she puts with this is I am willing to find ways to specifically celebrate that I am here. Ooh, good morning, Everett. Blessings to you. How are you, sir? I'm looking forward to seeing you at some point this weekend. I do believe it is Porch Fest weekend, and it never fails to run into you, so I am looking forward to that. So yeah, this idea of celebrating who you are, your gifting to the world, and allowing your gift, whatever that might be, to flow into the world. And as you let that flow into the world, to acknowledge that it is a building something. It is not just, this one and done, or it's not just you that is affected by your showing up, but there are things that build around it. And so that's why I was talking about the center where I was. It was that, and in some of the organizations that I've been a part of, in different things that I have taken part in, I show up fully. I show up fully, which means that there is it has an energy to it. And so, like I was talking about giving of milk, if there are people that are being nourished by the milk that you give, then that sets up a symbiotic relationship. That means that you are also participating in that. Yeah, the deck will be open. Okay, good. Rain or shine, I hope. I heard that we're supposed to be a little wet, but it's all good. It's all good. So with that, I am so grateful for the presence today, your presence today, and whenever you heard this, that you heard it is wonderful. And I hope you ponder this way of seeing that I find so valuable. And y'all, when I talk about this stuff, it doesn't mean that I perceive myself as having everything all worked out and it being perfect, because it's probably not. But what I do know is that I know where my God dwells. And I say that because I'm not going to make it the problem that I confront, right? There's a quote that they often say in New Thought is don't tell God how big your problem is, tell your problem how big your God is. But if you make your problem your God, if you turn all your attention towards it and not towards living, then you create another problem, because what gets drained, all of this stuff. What is the quote from that one? There was a thing that I forget how the story goes, but this man was talking. This is the gist of it. That people were talking about. This man was telling somebody that you've got two wolves, and there is one that is giving and loving and nurturing and all of that, and then there is one that kills and destroys. And whoever it was being told about this, they said, well, which one is the one that wins? And the guy says, the one that you feed. So it is you making choices about where you put your energy and attention. And if you put it on fear, what I know is that fear is not something that you build on. It is something that you it's like a pit that you are throwing stuff into it's a bottomless pit at that. Because there's one thing to have a pit in your life. And that maybe if you throw enough time and attention and money and stuff like that, maybe at some point you'll build it up until it's at ground level and it's no longer a pit. It's another thing to have a black hole that you are throwing something in that doesn't have a bottom. Fear doesn't have a bottom. The more you give into it, the deeper you just find out that it is bottomless. It is just deeper. It's expansive. And so the thing is to get rid of the pit, which means that you now have to turn your attention from what you were focusing on, that fearful thing that is bottomless and unable to contain anything, and turn it on to what it is that grows, what can be sustained. I told the story, and I don't know how long ago, about a dream that I had. And this dream was, I can't remember who the players were or anything like that. But I had this dream, and in this dream, I was trying to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with a skeleton. Now, if you could imagine a skeleton laying out and me opening up this bony structure, this mouth, this nothing, no lips there, no body, no skin that holds things in. And here I am trying to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation with something that had no ability to hold what I was pumping into it. And a lot of times that's what we do. Those are the kinds of messages that we need to have, the intuitive hit that we need to have in order for us to see that, you know what, I need to turn away from this. Fear has no ability to hold your dream. You've got to turn totally away from the fear and focus in on your gifting. What is it that I am giving to the world? What's your milk? What's your milk? I know those who have an ear will hear. And yeah, it's all good. So I thank you for being here. This has been an extraordinary week for me, because I realize that the things that come through me also come to me, for me to ponder and think about. So I appreciate you, the blessings that is your intention. Friday is your day. Peace and blessings, Sarika. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, it's just as much for me as it is for you who hears it. So I thank you for this. I thank you for all of it. And this is something else that I can, yeah, get my hands around and hold and, you know, symbolically look at what is the meaning for this coming through me again today. So blessings to you. And this weekend, I do believe, like I said, just said, the Everett is Porch Fest. If you are over in the Larchmere area this during the festivals, keep an eye out for me, because I plan on falling through at some point. Might be on my bike, might not be. I don't know for sure. Just depends on the weather. And yeah, and as always, say hey. All right. Blessings. Love you. And I'll see y'all. I'll be here tomorrow morning. I plan to be. And Sundays at 1. Have an amazing day. Friday is your day. Every day is your day. Truthfully. All right, bye. All right. All right. Take care. Have an amazing weekend. That goes for you too.